Hi everybody, welcome to the Sportsocology Show. Today is Saturday, March 22nd, 2014, and I realized in listening to last week's show that I said March 15th, 2004. Oops, well, what's 10 years amongst friends? It's March 22nd, 2014, Saturday. Welcome. Hope you're all having a great day and a great weekend so far. I've got a few things to get into, so why don't I just get to it? The first thing I'm going to talk about is the New York Jets, because I know my cousin Ken will be listening when this show hits YouTube, probably sometime tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. So I'm going to talk about the release of Mark Sanchez and the signing of Michael Vick, as I did predict. If you listened to, it was either last week's show, I think it was last week's show, might have been 2 weeks ago. I predicted that Michael Vick would end up with the Jets. I thought that was the best place for him, and still do. Nothing's changed. Mark Sanchez had to go. I realized the first 2 years he was pretty good, maybe even solid, not great, but the Jets did get to 2 straight AFC championship games, and they were the only team that could say that his first 2 years, the only team to make it to the conference championship game during the first 2 years that Sanchez was quarterback. But the last 2 years that he played, and then last year he was injured the whole year, he was just horrifyingly bad. Just turnovers after turnovers, mental errors, physical errors, and of course what really sealed his fate was the very famous, or infamous if you will, butt fumble against the Patriots, which got returned for a touchdown, and I think his career was basically over after that, at least in New York for the Jets, he would never be able to live that down. So good luck to him. He made $50 million for his first 5 years, so don't cry too much for him. I don't know if he's going to get another spot in the NFL anywhere. With the last 2 or 3 years, it may not be likely. Somebody would have to be really desperate. But wish him good luck. Don't cry too badly. He put $50 million in his pocket, so he's okay. On to Michael Vick. I'm not saying that Michael Vick's going to start. They drafted Geno Smith early in the second round last year, for last year. And he was okay, maybe, at best. I don't think he was even pretty good, certainly not good, great, or outstanding. But again, he was a rookie, and it takes a while, especially at the quarterback position, to get your bearings, get used to the speed of the league. The defenses are much more complex. They're much faster, a lot more things to learn. On offense, obviously, there's so many more plays. The complexity of offenses is so much different than it was for him playing at West Virginia. So I'm not going to say, he's not going to be any good. I don't know. I never thought he was that great. I didn't think he was that great in college. I think he beat up on weaker competition, and then a lot of times when the competition got stronger, he wasn't nearly as good. But I don't think he's going to be great. I personally, if I were in charge of the Jets, I think I would at the very least let Michael Vick challenge for the starting job. I think he has the experience. If the Jets can have a decent line in front of them, Vick is healthy. If they can protect him, now that they've gotten Eric Decker from the Broncos, and rumors are they may get Deshaun Jackson from the Eagles. Now, those are 2 quality wide receivers, very quality wide receivers. They'd still be struggling in the running game. I understand that. But with those 2 receivers and Michael Vick's arm, and if his legs are healthy, Michael Vick can be, sort of like a starting running back, not running 15 times a game, but just picking his spots 2 or 3 times a game, picking up some first downs, getting down when he's about to be hit, or getting out of bounds, not taking on big safeties and big linebackers. Get as much as you can and get down. And with that threat, if they can get a decent running back behind Vick, If they have Decker and possibly Deshaun Jackson and a decent line, now you're talking, a pretty good offense with a pretty good defense. Their defense has been pretty good the last few years. The offense has been a joke, but the defense has been solid. So if they can get those things that I just mentioned, they already have Decker, get Jackson, give Vic a chance at the starting job at least, and maybe he gets it, puts a little spark into the Jets offense, because the Jets have had nothing for the last few years. The Giants have had all the headlines, the back page of the papers. So the Jets need something, and I think Michael Vick could be that something, but at least give him a chance to challenge for the starting job. But at worst, if Vic is a backup, you have somebody with experience that's proven he can get the job done. The only issue with Vic is he's only played all 16 games once in his 12-year career, or however many years it is now, missing the 2 while he was in jail. He's played 10 years, and only once has he played all 16 games, so that might be the only issue. But anyway, good luck to Michael Vick. Good luck to the Jets. There you go, my cousin Ken up in Massachusetts led off the show with the Jets. Good luck to the Jets. Now I'm going to move on to a couple of more free agents, maybe. Well, really only one free agent. A lot of the free agents have already moved, already moved on, did their signings. We talked about the major ones last week. But there's one big one out there right now, Jared Allen, stud defensive end, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. His motor never stops. He gives you 100% every second he's on that field. His attitude is great. He makes the guys that play around him better. I'm sure with his attitude and the way his motor runs, whatever team he goes to is going to instantly be improved. And he's about to turn 32, and he's never missed a game in his career. So obviously the durability is not a question. He's had double-digit sacks, I believe, for the last 8 seasons. He's had at least 10 sacks 8 years in a row. Never missed a game, like I said. Still has 3, 4, 5 really good years, in my opinion, left in him. Now, he went to visit the Seahawks and left without a deal. I hear also that the Dallas Cowboys are very interested in him. Those are really the only 2 teams I've heard. Now, his agent says there are several offers. I don't know if that's true or not. The agents always want to talk up their client, make him seem more and more valuable, but he may very well be telling the truth. I don't know. But if I were anybody in need of defense, or even if you're not seriously in need of defense, last I checked, Seahawks are the Super Bowl champions with the best defense in football, and they're trying to get Jared Allen because it's so difficult, as you all know in the NFL, to repeat as champions. You can't just win the championship and say, well, we've got a championship caliber team, so we don't need to change anything. That's not the way it works. When was the last repeat champion? Does anybody out there know when it was? I know the answer. And the answer was in 1996. No, I'm sorry. It wasn't the Cowboys back in 96. It was the Patriots. And that was 2003, 2004, when they won back-to-backs. And before that, it was the Cowboys, 95 and 96. So it's not easy to do. Hasn't been done in 10 years. The last 9 or 10 Super Bowls, we've had different winners each year. And then there was an 8-year gap between teams that won back-to-back Super Bowls. So it hasn't been done a lot in the history of the NFL. Not sure exactly how many times, but I think it's only maybe 6 or 7 times that a team has won back-to-back Super Bowls in the 95-year history or whatever of the NFL. So the Seahawks are trying to get better, even though they have the best defense right now. If I were Jared Allen, now again, I don't know how many years he was offered. I don't know what the money he was offered is. I was told, or actually not told, but I heard, or told, if you will, on ESPN and other things that Jared Allen has a minimum contract in mind. And if he doesn't get that minimum contract, now I don't know if it means a minimum amount of years, minimum amount of money per year, minimum amount of guaranteed money, I don't know. But it's a minimum amount of, probably a combination of those on the contract, he would consider retirement. Now, I don't buy that. A lot of guys threaten to retire, and very few would retire when they still have several good years left, and he's still playing at a very high level, not even 32 years old yet. So I'm not buying the retirement aspect. But if the contract is right in terms of what you're looking for, and you have a choice between the Seahawks and the Cowboys, you may get a little more playing time with the Cowboys. The Cowboys definitely need you more. Go to the Seahawks. The Cowboys, they've been 8-8 the last 3 years. They've won one playoff game the last 17 seasons. Jerry Jones is not a good GM. They are not showing that they're on the upswing, ready to challenge for a championship, where obviously in Seattle, they just won the Super Bowl, and they're still looking to get better by trying to bring you in. So obviously, to me, the choice is simple. Assuming, you're okay with the way the contract is. I'm not saying, if the Cowboys are offering you $20 million and, Seattle's offering you $7 million, you should go to Seattle and leave $13 million on the table. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's pretty close, maybe the money is not substantially less, or the years are not substantially less in Seattle, go to Seattle. You don't have a championship. That's what you play the game for. Sure, the money is great. I understand that. Love of the game, of course, is there. I get all that. But the ultimate thing is to put that ring on your finger, to lift that Vince Lombardi trophy over your head. You don't have one of those. If you had one, I could see maybe if you wanted to be in Dallas more or going for more money, okay. But everybody I've ever heard, when they have one, they want to get it again. They want that feeling again. So if you get the chance and the contract is at least somewhat in the same ballpark as the Cowboys and whatever other suitors there might be for you, go to the Seahawks. Obviously, you have a tremendous chance to win there, and I just don't see that. Excuse me, I just don't see that with the Cowboys as they're constructed right now. I saw something on Facebook about Tony Romo. He showed up at the first round of the NCAA tournament yesterday, I believe it was. It was yesterday, at the Duke-Mercer game. And, of course, Duke got shocked and was upset in the first round. So the caption was, Tony Romo shows up at Duke's game, they get upset, they're out in the first round, just like Romo's usually out in the first round. So, that's just kind of the way it is with Dallas right now. Romo is an excellent fantasy quarterback. Excuse me. He gets lots of yards, lots of touchdowns during the season, does a great job for fantasy during the season, but has never gotten it done in the playoffs. He has one playoff win in 9 years as the Cowboys starting quarterback. So if you're listening, Jared, anybody ever hears this show and tells you about it, again, if the money in the contract is at least in the same ballpark as whatever offers you might get, go to Seattle. All right, I'm moving on to my mighty New York Mets, who haven't been mighty in quite a few years and are not going to be mighty this year. Just something recently I heard about. Sandy Alderson, the general manager of the Mets, said the Mets were going to win 90 games. Now, the Mets only won 74 games last year with their best pitcher, Matt Harvey, who's a stud, doing his thing. They only won 74 games with him pitching for almost all of the year until he got hurt later on in the season. He's the only starting pitcher that the Mets could rely on last year, and Harvey is out for the entire 2014 season. And our pitching I think for the most part, I know we just got Bartolo Colon from the A's, and he won 18 games last year, but he's 40 years old. I don't believe he's going to win 18 games because the A's had a better offense, a better lineup than the Mets did, a much better ballpark to hit in than the Mets do at Citi Field. I do not believe Bartolo Colon will come anywhere near 18 wins. I would say he's more likely, if he stays healthy the whole year, 10 to 12 maybe might be where you're looking for him. And I don't trust Dylan G. I just don't know about Jonathan Neese. I know Wheeler's a young kid and he's got potential, but the little I saw of him last year, the little bit, the taste that we got of him, he looked great one game and not so great the next. So, but again, he's young. It was his rookie year, so I'm not judging him. I'm just saying, we really don't know about him. And I do know about the bullpen, and the Mets don't have one. And the lineup, besides David Wright, I know we just signed Curtis Granderson, but we have several guys that, in my opinion, are like AAA hitters that are going to bat in the low to mid 200s at the best, at their best, with not a ton of power. Now, Granderson has power, but Citi Field isn't Yankee Stadium. I know a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, he hit 41 home runs for the Yankees. He's not going to do that in Citi Field. If he gets in the low 20s, that might be what I expect from him. Probably right, too. Low to mid 20s, if they stay healthy for the entire year. So the Mets aren't going to have a lot of pop. David Wright will probably bat 280, 285. Maybe Granderson will hit about the same. But we're going to have a lot of guys that hit in the low 200s. We don't have a lot of speed. We don't have a lot of power. No bullpen. I don't trust the starting pitching. No Matt Harvey. So I don't know how Sandy Alderson says the Mets are going to win 90 games. I think he's absolutely nuts. It's crazy. It's crazy, and it just makes you sound really, really ridiculous. Now, ESPN, the magazine, went through all the teams, predicting who would do what, so on and so forth. And they had the Mets winning 71 and losing 91. And I think that is much more likely to be the case, 71 and 91, than the Mets winning 90 games, which I think is nuts. I'm hoping Sandy Alderson's right. I would love for him to be right, but I cannot see it. They don't have the lineup. They have no bullpen. The starting staff is average at best. There's no way they're going to compete with the Nationals and the Braves in the East. They're going to be battling probably for last with the Phillies and the Marlins. The Nationals and the Braves will be a million miles ahead of the Mets. Mets won't be anywhere near the playoffs, and will probably win somewhere around the 71 games that ESPN predicted, not the 90 that the GM of the Mets said. But I hope you're right, Sandy. Go Mets. All right, now I'm going to end with what's going on, the big news, the big sports event that's going on right now. That's March Madness. I'm going to let you know, obviously, my bracket is not perfect, and from what I understand, there were over 11 million brackets sent into ESPN, and none of them are perfect any longer. And I'm thinking that the big upset yesterday when Mercer knocked out Duke, that probably eliminated a lot of people's perfect brackets, because of the 11 million, after the first day of games, there were only 18,000 that were still perfect, and that was before Mercer beat Duke. But now there are none. And I don't know if you heard, but Warren Buffett offered $1 billion, a billion with a B, like my name, Bill, $1 billion to anybody that had a perfect tournament bracket from beginning to end. But the odds of that are almost like winning the Powerball, almost impossible. Obviously, my bracket is not perfect, but the teams that I have lost, the teams that I picked wrong so far, I had them only winning like one game. So none of my teams that I've been wrong on so far, I didn't have them going very far anyway. So, my final 4 is still intact. My final 8 is still intact. The only one I had in the final 16 was Duke, and obviously they're out. But I'm going to let you know who I think is coming out of the four, the East, the West, the Midwest, the South. And, if you get a chance, you can let me know what you think on Facebook or Twitter, or you can leave word for me on YouTube when you hear the show. Let me know what you think. I thought, weeks ago, I kind of was telling my friends and other people who I thought was going to win the tournament. And then when they came out last Sunday with, all the matchups and everything, that's when I really started telling people who I thought was going to win. And I thought it was going to be kind of like a sexy pick where not many people would pick it. But I'm hearing some experts that are picking my champion. And I'm going to let you know what I think. Coming out of the South, because I'm looking at my bracket and the South is what I'm looking at first, I have the #1 overall seed, the Florida Gators, who easily moved on to the final 16 today. And they're looking really strong. Now, they're the #1 overall seed, and some people are picking them to win it all. But I wanted to go out on a little bit over the limb and not pick the #1 ranked team in the country. I would have picked them if I actually thought they would win, but I don't think they're going to win the championship. But I do have them making it to the $1 billion playpen, which is Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. If you didn't know, that's where the Final Four is, Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. I have Florida getting to the Final Four, winning the South. Now, over in the West, this is where I think I may have a little bit of a crazy pick. I have Creighton winning the West and making it to Dallas and the Final Four. On to the Midwest, I think this may be a little bit crazy also. I have Michigan, the #2 seed. Even though they're a #2 seed, I haven't heard anybody pick Michigan to make it to the Final Four. I have Michigan in the Midwest. And over in the East, I have Michigan State, the #4 seed, winning the East and making it to the Final Four. So if you were following there, I have a #1 seed, a #2 seed, a #3 seed, and a #4 seed, all getting to the Final Four. Now, I didn't even realize that until, I think it was yesterday. I realized, hey, I picked a #1, a #2, a #3, and a #4 to make it to the Final Four, but that was just coincidence. I didn't realize it at the time. So the matchups would be Florida against Michigan State, and I have Michigan State knocking out the #1 team in the country, Florida. I have Michigan State moving on to the championship game Monday night, April 7th. And the other national semifinal would be Creighton against Michigan, and I have Creighton winning that matchup. So my national championship matchup is the Michigan State Spartans against the Creighton Blue Jays, and I have Michigan State winning the entire thing. I thought that not many people would pick that when I first did, but I'm hearing some experts picking Michigan State. Now, some have Florida. I know at least a few picked Duke, but obviously that didn't work out very well. And I'm sure there are a few other teams out there that people are picking. But I do have Michigan State winning the entire thing Monday night, April 7th. I say that the Michigan State Spartans from the Big Ten will be cutting down the nets at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas. Well, that's about all I have for today. Please follow me, Facebook and Twitter. Go to YouTube, Sportsocology Show. It may be just typing in Sportsocology. I never know. I guess I should find that out. But the Sportsocology Show on YouTube. Hit subscribe. It will let you know the moment that my shows hit the air. And as things go on, I'll be getting more and more advanced with video, and I'm going to do some more shows with other people other than myself, so you'll hear other people's views on everything. But please follow me and subscribe and do those things. And have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy all the college basketball tonight, and the preseason baseball and whatever else you're doing. The weather is gorgeous here in Georgia. Hopefully it's great where you are, and you're getting rid of the snow and the bad weather and whatever. Get out and enjoy the rest of the weekend. And I'll see you next time, America, wherever you are.